Welcome everyone. Today we see about a function called static member function. Let's see the definition first. When we declare a member of a class as static, that means when we declare a variable or a member function as static, it means no matter how many objects of the class are created, there is only one copy of the static member will be there. We can make variables and functions as static. There are few properties should be used for making a variable as static or making a function as static. Let's see that one by one. Under static variable, first property, static variables are initialized to 0. It is initialized only once. Throughout the program, only one copy of the static member variable is created for the entire class. Hence, static member variables are also called class variables. It is shared by all instances of the class. The static member variable is only visible within the class, but its lifetime is till the program ends. The third property, that means the static member variable is only visible within the class. That means if I want to access a static variable, then I need to specify that variable outside the class using scope resolution operator. That's what it means. The next, static function, first property, a static function can only access other static variables or static function present in the same class. Static member functions are called using the class name. The syntax is class name, scope resolution operator, and then function name. Both static function and static variable can be accessed only with the support of scope resolution operator. So let's see a small video to understand how these static functions are used in a program. Hope you are clear about how to use static in variable and as well as in member function. Let's see two examples and run the program in code blocks, the same program which is displayed in this video, and as well as one more program. Let me open an existing project. Let me create a new file. The name is static_1.cpp. First, let me run the same program which is displayed in the video to check out the output. First is a header file, followed with using namespace std. And create a class. The name which is given as demo. And use the access specifier, and let me introduce a variable integer counter, and I'm going to make this variable as a static variable. So I have to introduce static in front of it. Now a static variable is created. Let me create two functions. One function is for incrementing the count. So inside the function I say counter plus plus. Let me create one more function to display it. Display the counter. So if I want to say display, I have to use cout count equal to, and the value is stored counter end L. And I'm going to make the second function, that is void display of, as a static function. So I have to introduce the term static in front of it. Now we are done. Before getting into the main function, one of the most important property, if I make a variable as static, it is visible only inside the class. So I have to make this counter visible for the main function. So the syntax is the return type, class name, scope resolution operator, and then the variable name. It's very important. If you skip this, you can't able to access the static variable. Now go for main function. Let me create a object for demo D. So using this object, I am going to call the function increment underscore count of. Again, I am going to call the same function with the same object, increment underscore count of. Now I can't call the second function, that is display of, using an object d dot. It is not possible, as because this function is a static, and we know very clearly the one of the property is I can able to access a static function only with the support of class name. So I use demo, the syntax is class name, scope resolution operator, and then the function name. Alright. Now, before checking the output, let's understand what is going to be the output, how we are going to get the output. I'm calling the function d.increment underscore count. That means it's going to call this function. Inside I'm saying counter plus plus. I told you very clearly, when I make a variable as static, it will be automatically initialized to 0. So the counter value is defaultly assigned as 0. I am incrementing that to 1 now. So if I am calling d dot increment underscore count, I got the answer 1 inside the counter variable. Again I am calling the same function with the same object. Now the counter again gets incremented. Now 2 is stored inside counter. And here I am displaying a static function. So if I am displaying, I am supposed to get the output count equal to 2. Let's check. Okay, we got an error. What it says, class demo has no member named increment underscore count. Did I make any spelling mistake? Yeah, increment spelling mistake. Yeah, got the output count equal to 2. Hope you are clear about how to use static in variable and static in member function. This is displayed in the program, in the video. Let's see one more example to make this static concept much more clear. Let me create a new file, static underscore 2.cpp. Let me remove the old one. Same procedure, header file, namespace, and let me create a class as example, access specifier. Let me introduce two variables, one as integer num, another one integer n. Let me make the first variable as static, and let me introduce three functions here. Void set of. So here I am going to increment num and store it in the n variables. That means n equal to num plus plus. So last time we just incremented, I didn't store in any variable. This time I am storing inside a variable n. Now we need to display this. So let me say show off, say cout, value of n equal to, so I need to know the value of n, so I am saying n ndel. Now let me introduce one more function to show the number. The difference here is every time the number is going to be incremented and it is stored in the variable n. Not all the time the n value and num value is going to be same, because the first time when it is going to be incremented, the num is going to be incremented as 1, but the value that is going to be stored in n is going to be 0. And next time it is going to be incremented as 2, n is going to store the value 1. It goes like that. So we need to differentiate what is going to be the output I get in n and what is going to be the output I get in num. Same cout statement, value of num equal to call num and l. Here I am making the last function as static. That's it. So two variables, one static, three functions, one static. So we know the procedure. What we have to do, since I made here. Since I made this num as static, it will be displayed only inside the class. So we know what we have to do. Return type int, class name example, scope, and then num. Now we can access this variable. Go to the main function. Let me introduce two objects this time, E1, E2. So using the first object, I'm going to call set of, and using the second object, I'm going to call the same function set of. And now using the first object, I'm going to call show off. I think we can't make a function name as set. It is displaying in green color. Please understand, if it is displaying in green color, it's a default value or default variable. So I need to set this as set1. It should be in black color. If it is going to be a user defined name, it should be in black color. So let me make the change here also. Set1, set1. Now using the second object, I'm calling the same function show off. Alright, now the third function, I need to call this. We know the drill. We can't use an object to call that. We need to use a class name. Class name is example, scope, and then show underscore now. That's it. So any guess what's going to be the output of this program? First I'm calling e1.set1. It's going to call this function. That means num is going to be incremented. That means num is going to have the value 1, but n is going to have the value 0. So incremented value only comes for the next time, not for the first time. So n is going to have 0, num is going to have 1. Again I am calling the same function with another object. So again num is going to be incremented. This becomes 2 and n becomes 1. Now I am calling e1.showOff. So when I say e1.showOff, under this object the value of n is 0, the value of num is 1. So that's going to be the output. When I call again the same showOff function with the second object e2.showOff, the n value is going to be 1 and num value is going to be 2. So if I call the last one and just want to display num, so at the current or final situation we know that the num is going to store the value 2. Let's check the output. See, the value of n equal to 0, that means this part, e1.showOff. I told you, even though num is incremented, n is going to store the value 0. So that's why we get the output n equal to 0. And again I am calling the same function showOff with the second object. Now n becomes 1 and num, it is incremented to 2. And the last one I am calling this function value of num. Num is a static function, so what is finally incremented, that means it's incremented as 2. So the output should be displayed as value of num equal to 2. So that's how a static variable or static function works in a C++ program. In the next video, let's see how to run a friend function and function overloading and as well as function overriding. Thank you.